We'll get started. Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for this virtual workshop. We're really excited to have you in the space to learn a little bit more about some tools to help you in your business endeavors, whether you're building a startup or in the corporate space looking to better dial in your business and track various metrics. Would love to support you in that space. If you just joined us, would love for you to throw in the chat where you're joining us from. It's always great to see what you're working on and where in the world you're joining us, since we have an international speaker, and I know we have some international attendees as well. But before we get started, my name's Cameron Law. I serve as the Executive Director of the Carlson Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. We serve as a regional hub and platform for providing approachable and accessible entrepreneurial education, community, and support to enable startup founders of all backgrounds to start and scale their businesses. And I'm joined by two of our team members here. We have Arlene Miranda, who heads up our marketing and operations. And then we have Brian Gladden, who's one of our entrepreneurs in residence and helps lead some of these workshops. And I'm going to briefly share my screen here to introduce our speaker. And since we have an hour of time, want to make sure we spend most of that diving into the content. So it's my honor to introduce Edward Vander Kolk, who's a fractional strategy execution coach and partner at Bizalign. Currently is the product owner of both the OGSM software and My Contract Manager, which I imagine we'll get a little bit of content around. Also has some very unique skill sets in bridging the gap between business owners and IT, which definitely speak very different languages when it comes to the business space. And so a key skill set in translating strategic ambitions into practical execution. And then also is going to be bringing us his deep experience in both business strategy and technology, and helps organizations not only design their plans, but also make them work in practice. And so we're in good hands here today with Edward. And I don't know, Brian, if you want to add some content before we get started and let Edward take it from there.
I will. Yeah, just a quick note for all of you here who are joining us. So one of my areas that I focus in my business is strategy execution. And one of the main frameworks in the world out there is OGSM that you're going to obviously hear about. There's OKRs and there's balanced scorecard, OGM. I say, those three. And I look at Thomas and Edward, who are going to talk today, as some of the experts in OGSM in the world. So I'm starting to work with them as a partner. And I think that they are experts with tons of experience and be able to help all of you here, no matter what area you're on and what stage of your growth in your company, to execute and really achieve your goals. So I'm excited for them. We really appreciate it. So Edward and Thomas, will throw it over to you and take it away.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Cameron. Hopefully everyone can hear me properly. Brian, quick nod to make sure it's all fine. Okay, so welcome everyone. Yeah, Edward Vander Kolk, like I said, I do a lot of OGSMs for a lot of different organizations. I'm not sure how many of you know where little tiny Netherlands is compared to areas of the US, but the Netherlands punches well above its weight for its size and its population, with some major banks, insurance companies, and companies in the past like Philips and Heineken beer, if you've ever heard of that, big sponsor. So we do very well for such a small country. One of the reasons why is because of OGSM. So OGSM itself came from the Japan population. They were the first to do it. And they were also, it was adopted by a number of large organizations, including big ones like Procter & Gamble. I'll go very briefly into that. But it's a framework that ends up really helping you think. So for anyone who is struggling to do everything in their head as far as change management goes, OGSM is the way to put things down on paper and to help you to think, and that thinking adds the more value. So if you can put any of the comments inside the chat, and Thomas is also my colleague, he'll be able to help answer some of those. I will try to get this slideshow up and running. If everyone's seeing that now, just go full screen. Okay, so thank you, Brian, also, and Cameron, for the invite to present here today. That's very appreciated to be able to show what I'm passionate about to a larger group of audience. Just very quickly, it's going to be an agenda. We're going to go through some theory. It may not be fun, but I hopefully will explain to you why it's necessary or it's very attractive for you to learn these type of things. We're going to go through some practical examples, and then we're going to go through questions. So first of all, in the chat, who has ever heard of OGSM? Because it's just 4 letters, but it's a strange combination. It doesn't appear in everyday dictionaries. So show of hands, I see some people who have got their cameras on. You can say if you do or not inside there, or at least who has seen it in action. Has anyone heard of Procter & Gamble and heard about the products they've got and working? Maybe less. And who has used it? Maybe not many of you at all. I guess Brian, Cameron. And I can put that up as well, and we'll make sure they interrupt me about so I can answer questions. Firstly, why change? Now, we help hundreds of organizations achieve more goals. This is actually one of the hardest areas to convince teams. It's not normally so hard to convince what they're good at. Change is difficult. Ask anyone to change. It's hard. You need to have some assistance to make it easier. In the current world, there's lots of trends. Graphics affect many organizations. It's adapt or die. It's that serious at the moment because change is happening faster than ever. So running the business isn't enough anymore. Change must be managed or it will manage you. Hopefully, so I don't know the combination of startups, scale-ups, running organizations or large organizations, but anyone who's been around for a while, most people who do a startup, if they've been around for a while because they've been in an organization, they're often leaving their organization because that organization fails to change in time, or at least, and doesn't have a believable plan for the future, or they're not executing that plan correctly. So in here, we'll just give you an example of every businesses that are getting hit by these trends. So if you're an account, they should be adopting digital tools and automation. Move to cloud accounting platforms, use AI, do real-time dashboards. So anyone who's running a business at the moment or works with this, even if you do your own tax authority, if your financial advisor is not using the latest tooling, and you start hearing from other people that they are getting better service than you tend to want to move. Now, this will happen in your own organization if you don't do the right thing. So there's a number of different trends that are happening that people need to keep up with. So your organization needs to keep evolving and changing. And so a lot of these slides, Brian, I'm not sure, but I think we'll be able to hand them out to people who attend so that they can get this. So I will have a lot of slides. I won't kill you by PowerPoint. I've put more content in than I want to show properly, but I want to put a lot in there so that you can afterwards review it and learn from it. We're here to teach. We believe the world needs to change quickly to keep up with what we're doing to damage the world. So we want to make sure that we're able to repair it by implementing change. So another example, just the everyday butcher in the street. So if they're not getting online ordering, home delivery, digital loyalty cards, they're doing something different in the supermarkets, they're getting taken over. There's less and less of them, but they don't often have the skills to know what to do to change to get better. If they do, they're surviving. If they don't, they're already gone. So this is happening every day when you pay attention. So to survive and thrive, an organization must solve customer problems. This is the core of any business in here. The better, the cheaper, and easier than anyone else, those are the organizations that are going to win. But that requires, because the world is evolving so quickly, it requires you to evolve with it, and that's change. So this is about why change. Now, who is this presentation designed for? Business owners, organization leaders, program managers, many different people, but it's all about people who want to achieve more goals. If you're an organization that's happy to keep running the business and intend just to run the business for the next 5 to 10 years, you'll tend to find people are not motivated to work there, and you yourself may have left an organization already like that. So I hope you're here because you do want to achieve more, you don't want to fall behind, and you want to learn how to do this better. So we're going to try to introduce learning how a change framework can help you to achieve more and see some real world OGSM examples. In basics, you have a target market for your organization. I hope you all know how to define that. I'll show you an OGSM that helps you describe some of that in the coming steps. You have to plot where you are in your current target market. Now, you need to start discovering, putting effort into not just running your business, so just not just servicing your company, your customers right now, but work out what movement are they creating, where do they want to go? And it has to be an active part of your weekly, monthly, quarterly process to keep an eye on what's changing. What are my competitors doing? Also very important because they're also doing some of this. Very few people do it well. So if you do change management, moving in the right direction, better than other people, you will get more customers, you will survive, and you will crush your opposition. So you need to work out where are they going. At one stage, you're going to find the right direction. Yeah. You're going to highlight, say, this is where my customers are, talking to your customers, work out what they're going. And then you go, okay, over a period of time, I am here now, but I'm going to need to move to a different spot. So that's going to be change. That's what change is all about inside there. So what must change though? Is it your product that needs to change? Is it your service? Is it your location? There's a number of the staff that you have. Do they need to evolve themselves, go to training? So you need to determine what must change. And then how am I going to make that happen? It's difficult because people, as I say, like to run their business. Just check with everyone. Am I talking too fast or anything? I've got an accent from Australia, so I'm Australian living in the Netherlands. But is everyone clear, Brian? Good. Thank you for the feedback.
All good.
So, okay. Then you come down to, so how will I change? So what must I change? How will I change? And then what do I need to do? There's a lot of questions that people have around. Very standard stuff at the moment, but I'm trying to introduce you generally into why we think change is so important. You need to create focus. Very important. So in here, a change framework, change work, going into a one-page canvas, that's what we're going to present to you as the OGSM. So you start off with not on the OGSM itself, you start off outside there, a SWOT, so a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threat, which you can also put into an OGSM, but I'll show you that also afterwards. You need to define where are we going. So we just had a diagram saying the customers are slowly moving to what their product preferences are. Define where you want to go and when you're going to get there. Then think about the strategy you're going to use to get there. Work on actions that have impact on actually forming real change. Make sure your organization is moving the same direction and not different ones. And then you need to do the strategy execution part. You need to execute, monitor, adjust, keep talking to each other, make sure you keep changing for those corners in the road to get you there. So step one there, step two, step three, step four. Now, the example, you've probably all seen it. There's plenty of examples of organizations that have failed to manage the change correctly. They failed to anticipate significant changes in what their customers wanted, and they kept giving the same product. So the same as the greengrocer, if that's called in America, or the butcher down the street, if they're not adapting, they're disappearing. There are customers that want to still use them, but if they don't facilitate what the customer really wants, if they don't solve the customer problem properly, it won't happen. So Nokia is one of those ones that just had unbelievable market share and didn't make it in the end. So the Procter & Gamble is one of the famous ones from the OGSM methodology. They have been using this for a long time. They have a good long-term objective, so be the world's most trusted company for everyday consumer needs. So one of the general things in an OGSM is you're trying to put your overall objective or your vision for your organization or your mission for your organization, depending on what you want to see as vision as mission. But here you can quite see they are focused on the entire world. So they've chosen a market, they've chosen the market themselves as far as consumer, everyday consumer, and they want to be trusted. So it's a strategy. You can see it inside there. So these are the strategies of the choices, how they've done: customer-centric innovation, brand portfolio management, R&D, they keep focusing on change, right? And sustainability focus, global reach, and local relevance. So when I said things like AI is changing, when the environment is changing, you can see Procter & Gamble have that very clearly in their overall approach. And they take their overall approach and they cascade it down through the organization until everyone in the organization makes critical choices every day based on the direction your whole organization's going. So why does Procter & Gamble keep winning with OGSM? Clarity, discipline, adaptability, execution. So anyway, I hope I'm not boring you all too much at the moment. This is pretty theory stuff. This feels like a bit like a lecture, but I'll get into a little bit better the actual approach soon. So OGSM, we've hopefully established change is important. Long term, you won't get there if you don't change. OGSM is your change canvas. So taking those 4 steps, we just plot it a little bit differently. Step 1, where do you want to go? That's what we put down as the strategic direction, and it's called the objective. So in the OGSM, the O is the objective. Step 2 is what needs to change. And here we're talking about the numbers. If you have an objective, what numbers represent that you will be achieving your objective? Very often at the highest level, we're expecting things like profitability, revenue, some customer numbers. They're the lagging indicators. And please put your hands up or put in the comments if you'd like a bit more explanation about the difference between leading and lagging indicators. Lagging are things that you measure afterwards. So profit, you can't measure upfront. You have to measure at the end. But the net promoter score is something that will also help dictate what your end profitability will be. It's a leading indicator that you need to adjust to get to your lagging indicator you want to achieve. So in here, we call these the goals. They're the KPIs, performance, they're all about the numbers. Step 3, how do we get there? Now, we've got, in the terms Brian also mentioned OKR. So OKR is similar, objective and key results. They take the key results being either result in a result of an action or the result being a number. So OKR and OGSM are very, very similar in a lot of ways. There is a difference, and that's their step 3. This is why I prefer OGSM above OKR. It's because it's got the how in there. You'll see in the OKR, objective and key results, they don't explain the how. But if you all decide, I give an example in Europe, of course, I'm close to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And I don't know if you know where that is, but it's 4 hours, 5 hours drive from Paris. So if I'm going to go with my team to Paris and I want to go to a concert there to listen to someone, and I say that in the objective is to go to the concert and listen with my team, the key result is that I've got there, we've all enjoyed ourselves, but I'm not explaining how I'm going to get there. And if I have the choice between driving, flying, walking, train, I've got all of these choices. But if we don't align as a team, we're going to find all of a sudden we're in the office and there are people gone because they decided to walk to Paris. It's a long, long walk, but you can do it. So you've got to be aligned on the how. So in step 3, we're talking about strategy and we're talking about choices. And often it's the first level of breakdown that you do from your overall objective. Often it's talking about what needs to be true for my staff to get to the objective, what needs to be true in my product, what needs to be true with my business partners. You know, there's all these areas that need to be worked on to align correctly, to influence the goals to achieve my objective. And the step 4 is the area that most people do. It's actually split into 2 areas. There's the progress and the actions. So you'll see the majority of organizations focus a lot on the actions. And when they have to evaluate, is the action successful? They think about budget, they think about task management, they look at the resources. And I say all of those are less important than the impact that action is meant to create. So impact of an action is far more important than the budget or the resources or the tasks themselves. So it's the actions that we should be able to track with progress within the strategy that we're working on, which will create the performance going towards achieving the overall objective. So everything you do must impact something that you can measure and want to change. Doesn't always have to be financial, can be something very different. But if you think like this and you get your actions well defined, it will help you build clarity within your team, and it'll also be much more clear to the project manager or the program manager when are they successful. So being on budget in a project is not really an indicator of success. Only the impact is the true indicator. So, and here's also very important. We haven't had a proper recession in a long time in the Western world. It's hard to find good team members and get them to stick around. If you don't have something that inspires people to want to stick around, they might be looking somewhere else. It might be why a lot of you have got a startup or a scale up that you haven't been inspired to stay with a big organization because you don't think they're going the right direction. So in this overall objective, you're trying to specify a direction that is inspiring and your team wants to work to, and that's what's going to keep them there. Because without your staff, in the new world of AI, it's possible we're going to get to one-person billionaire organizations. They're talking about it, but it's not for everyone. And in general, you need a team to get there. Along the way, if your team is not, if they're motivated to get there, but you don't keep them happy, it's also hard. So one of my saying is progress equals happiness. So you're trying to measure the progress, you're trying to show the team that you're progressing towards your overall direction, because moving in the right direction is motivating, keeping your staff. So here we go. Here's the value add change canvas OGSM. The objective at the top, goals at the left, strategy, dashboard, actions here. So, and what goes where on an OGSM? The why, the overall direction and why you're doing this goes up the top, normally in a what by how, defining what the strategy is. So what do I want and what's my primary strategy to get there?
Edward, I have a question from June. It's WhatsApp. She's asking, do you define the destination or your objective for yourself or for your customers?
Good question. It can be either, depending on how you want to structure it. I like to always set the highest level as the customer. So what does the customer actually want to achieve inside there? Or what are you going to do for the customer inside there? So talking from a customer perspective helps your team consider that always, because without customers, you don't have an organization or a business. So you can do it at different levels. I prefer the highest level to always talk about the why. Why? What problem am I solving for the customer inside there? I hope that answers the question. So desired results, the numbers, often at the highest level, you have the, as I said, the revenue, profitability, things like that. Then you're talking about how the contributor strategies are going to get there. And you're talking about the progress here and doing as the what, when, and who. So if you just have project management software that tracks task management, like what you see in Microsoft Teams with their to-dos and everything, it's not explaining how they're going to create the impact on the numbers you care about. And almost always board member level people, they only care about the numbers. They don't care what you're going to do to get there, as long as you're not doing something illegal, but they care about the numbers. So the OGSM helps align the board level numbers with the execution at the team level, because during the discussions, the teams must always be explaining how they're going to create impact on the numbers that the management care about. That's what's important. So here we see, just pure technically, we always like to see the objective being text, the goals being numbers, strategy being text, the dashboard being numbers, and the actions being text. This is actually a two-level cascading OKR type strategy, except the strategy is the how, and in OKR, they don't always specify that it's actually the how that should be at one of the levels inside there. These are 8 reasons. Am I going too fast for everyone? Because I hope it's still okay. Just Brian and Cameron, is this okay? Just not too bad. Everyone's able to absorb it.
Yeah.
Yep, all good. And if you have questions, just throw them in the chat and we can bring them in as needed.
So there's, especially in large organizations, so not so much for scale-ups and startups, but in larger organizations, the larger it is, the more these areas really count. How do you get people aligned properly? So that's the number one. And how do you prioritize certain projects over others inside there? So in the past, there would be long-running projects that might run for 2 or 3 years and end up totally failing. Those organizations survived in the past, but actually they're starting to fail more and more today because they just can't afford that sort of inefficiency. You must kill bad projects faster. It's some of our customers really like that saying. So OGSM kills bad projects faster because you get to see the impact or the lack of it. So you kill them. So visibility, accountability, common language. This is also very important. When you're discussing things amongst your team, especially the difference between the senior management and the work floor, if you don't have a common language, there is miscommunication. Miscommunications, inefficiencies, frustrations, just wasting time, and people don't have the focus. So then having a common language allows people to create interventions, stop bad projects faster. Yeah. And it also, by having tracking of progress and seeing the impact, you can also design your incentives better. So instead of just designing an incentive like when our organization makes 10% more profit, you will all get a bonus of $100. Yeah, it's a very typical old-fashioned style incentive. Why did they do it like that? Because they couldn't track things properly themselves about what the workers were doing. We've got to get much better at that because you've got to incentivize people. If you don't do that, they will leave to another organization that does. Yeah. So you want to have engagement as well. This is very important. Driving a car. I think the majority of you probably have a driver's license. Yeah. OGSM is a little bit like learning to drive a car. If you try to learn just by yourself, what would happen to you if you wouldn't have sat in a car with your parents or your comrades or whatever and seen how to drive? And what would happen if you then just went to the car dealership and said, I want that one, and you got in the car? What happens? Well, when you try to learn to drive without an instructor, this is my version of it, you increase the chance of crashing because you don't know actually how to drive yet. You're not experienced enough. Even though you would all say now, I can drive almost blindfolded. We're not quite there yet, but it's getting there with these full self-drivings. But you're increasing the chance of you're going to crash because you don't know the road rules. You may not use all the features inside there. So you don't know where the radio is. You don't know where the indicator is. So all of these things become second nature to you because you are driving and you learn how to drive by a proper instructor and you've seen other people drive. Change management, although it's been around a long time, has never been so important as it is today because the world is changing so fast. Too many things moving. If you don't get a good instructor, you may not use all the features of this framework. And then what you'll end up doing is you'll end up blaming the car. So a very harsh version, if you have a manual, I think we call a manual, or a shifter, I think you call it in America, if you shift gears, you might get into a car and you might stay in one of the gears. Either you put it straight into fourth and you don't get the car started, or you put it in first and keep it there and wondering why everyone's going past you. Don't blame the car. It's you not wanting an instructor to learn and put in the effort to learn that's going to cause the area. So a tip, people like Brian and Cameron can help you. Get some lessons to create value faster. It will save you money. It won't cost you. It will cost you something. You have to invest, but the investment is well under a tenth of anything. It's going to always 10 times anything you put into it. Okay, the what by how. What you want and how you intend to get it. We're starting to introduce, and I'm going to race through these very quickly because you're going to see this and we're going to talk about it. We're already halfway through the hour. So basically it talks about in the top, the objective, be the preferred local supermarket chain in the Netherlands with a fantastic range of products by supporting local suppliers first. Yeah. So it says what I want. You'll see there is no number here. I'm saying be the preferred local supermarket chain in the Netherlands. How am I? It's also text. How am I going to get there? Yeah, I've said here local supermarket chain. So I'm also specifying what is my target market inside here. Also saying the Netherlands. So I'm very, very similar to Procter & Gamble. We're specifying what we want as a result here, and who should be doing this. And then, then we're going to go how and what's my strategy to get there? I've got to have something to differentiate with myself. Otherwise, I won't be able to do it. So in this example, we're going to say we're going to support local suppliers first. So this matches the environmental people. Very good, because less transport, less environmental impact. Supporting local suppliers, support your local community, very good way. I don't see it in any supermarket around the Netherlands. So it's just a strategy that I came up with to try it, put it in, yeah. But what we don't want to see is make 10% more profit. That's a goal being a number, but it should not be your objective. Be the number one supermarket also is not clear enough. It says down the bottom here, these do not mention the market you are addressing or how you intend to get what you want. So they are not good versions inside here. In an OGSM, the way we structure it, we take the areas that are adding value, and we put it into the headers over here. So copy the what by how and make them headers inside here. And then start creating the numbers. So in this example, we're saying, if I want to be the preferred local supermarket, these numbers are representing winning to me. That means I am winning. So I'm trying to grow from 22 million to 27 million in profitability. How am I going to do that? Because I'm growing my revenue from the 620 to 850. I'm growing my local market share from 41 to 45, because I believe from 41 to 45 will be the preferred local supermarket, being the local inside there. So these are just some examples. You can go through them in the presentation yourself. So basically, what numbers need to be true to represent what I want and how I will get there. And their numbers inside here. Then we start breaking it down. So if I'm going to become the preferred local supermarket chain, I'm not going to get there without breaking it down into different categories or strategies. So we have a staff strategy, we have a customer strategy, we might have product strategies. There's many different strategies. First brainstorm, just put them down, and then think about what is going to happen. So what areas of the organization will need to change to fulfill my objective to get there, what I want. So describe your strategy per area that contributes to your house strategy, and it's text. Employees come and stay with us because our training and mentoring approach to improving personal skills that makes our community stronger. So we've selected something. We haven't just said we want staff to stay. We've given them reasoning. We've got a strategy behind why we're going to attract people to our supermarket, and the smarter and better ones, compared to working at any other supermarket, because we're not going to necessarily pay them more. That would mismatch our other strategy of giving affordable groceries. Then we have an action. So what actions are we going to take? If we say employees come and stay with us because of our training or mentoring, I've actually got to do something. I've got to take action. So this is where we start putting in that, what am I going to do? Who's going to do it? And by when? So in here, we say that employees learn how to behave and work in line with great personal service by being mentored by internal expert staff and expert or community specialists. So I've said what I'm going to do inside there. And in the example, you can see this is my action. And then I start putting in what steps can I take of that action. Again, I'm doing a breakdown of something large into something smaller so that I can make it happen. This one is measuring progress in here. So I'm saying that 95% of employees successfully complete level 1 service training inside there. So I'm starting to get a believable story. That's what you're looking for when you're building up your OGSM. You will not get there in your first attempt. Brainstorming in your first attempt is what you want. Then you want to be able to keep on iterating, making it better and better and better. Start communicating it with your team. ask them for feedback, ask them what their idea is of an action that's going to create impact on the numbers you care about. Yeah, this is also 80, and if I have 95% of employees following the training and successfully completing, then I'm expecting that 80% of my customers will experience a lagging indicator, because I've done a leading indicator that's going to be training, and the lagging indicator is that my customers will experience better customer service inside there. So we've got the leading and lagging. So again, I have an objective. I've got an action, train and mentor staff in customer service. I'm going to track progress with 95% of employees successfully complete level 1 training. So that's showing I'm in my organization, I'm able to progress. The impact of that should be that 80% of customers have great service, leads to 45% local market share because people want to come to our organization, which ends up leading to a revenue increase and profit increase. So I've got my action, progress, leading indicator, lagging indicator, my ultimate goal indicator. It's a framework, right? This is like explaining to you the indicator, it wouldn't be called an indicator. What do you guys call it? And if you have to change directions in a car, you have to indicate the stick, whatever it's called in America.
Turn signal, yeah.
Turn signal. You got to learn how to turn on the lights, right? Somewhere each car's got a different set of lights. Don't blame the car that when you're driving in the dark that you can't see. You need to learn how to turn on the light. So these are the tools of the OGSM that if you use them right, you'll get there. But when you learned how to drive the first time, you didn't know how to turn the air conditioning on at the same time as turn the radio up and turn off your high beam because the cars are coming, right? It takes practice. So get somebody to help you. In our software, we do this correctly by putting it all in place, everything we've talked about. And then if you have an action that has impact, you can highlight it so you can actually see it. And it can go both ways. So I can say to the action owner, so this is Doran inside here, he has to finish by the 30th September. These are the progress indicators. This is the impact I'm expecting in this area, which will end up creating impact here. So if in an organization you want to make more profit, which most of you probably do, your OGSM done correctly should very easily be able to explain what actions are you doing that will create more profit. It's got to be a believable story. That's the hard part inside there. So actually, so it's a little bit, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Arc de Triomphe or the inside Paris. It's famous. So I was there with my son just a few days ago because we're coming back from our holidays in France. And I took him around it because it's so difficult to drive. And he is 2 months away from getting his driver's license. So we'd been there before, but he, as a child, didn't care so much about it. But now I showed him how that Arc de Triomphe works when you drive around it. So understanding the some of these, I don't even know why did I say that? Measuring progress. Yeah, so you want to be able to see that. Okay, also, just like you do, if you have a document about your own strategy, a PowerPoint slide deck at the moment, maybe some Excels and things like that, you've got to give it some context in the file. So take this as the file name, but you can see here, the context is the Great Food Supermarket, and it's also saying what time period are we talking about? Because an OGSM should always be in context of a time period. This is a multi-year version. What we suggest is always taking a longer term vision, so that's your long-term strategic direction, and break it down into a year OGSM inside there. So context with a date range. This is just for your slide adjustment. This is if you want to make excellent actions, excellent projects. These are the things that you should have covered. Don't worry about that. Brian's talked about strategy execution, that he's an expert in there. So in execution, it's not about the plan, it's about executing the plan. To do that, you've got to communicate. Doing the right communication at the right time is what we call part of the organizational habits. And this is just an overview of what we're expecting from the OGSM. So there are monthly updates for projects. They're very easy to do, just red, green, amber. sprints are very normal in IT, if anyone's heard of them, but sprints in business are very few and far between. But we've got to get better at change in business. So you need to communicate faster and make sure when things are going right, they're rewarded, and when they're going wrong, you need to adjust, maybe even stop them. This, unfortunately, is the truth about how not management sees change, but how the teams underneath do. They just say, I don't want to, basically. So they start off on the left-hand side, I'm too busy. Let me run my business. But if you just keep letting them run the business, you will end up having no customers to serve because the world is moving faster and faster. So you need to get through this. And your own management team might also feel this. They might just say, this is taking too long, even though a status update of an action takes less than 5 minutes once per month. They will say they don't have time to do it. It's not that they don't have time, it's they actually don't know how to do it. So they just give you the excuse of that. But recognize, please, if you implement OGSM, it's changing a habit. It's changing some of the culture within your organization. And that's friction, because change is friction. So if you recognize this upfront, you'll smile about it because you know you'll be able to make them inquisitive, you'll get them enthusiastic, and they'll end up liking it. But you've also got to train them. In large organization, we cascade it down through the department managers into the team managers and everything. They have to be trained that once the next rollout happens, they will encounter the same thing. Although they are now enthusiastic, as they roll it out, their team's again going to say, we are too busy. This is unfortunately the nature of change. People don't want to change so quickly. You need to structure it right, make it enthusiastic. You need to reward them. Okay, that was the theory. Took a little while. I'm going to try to race through some of the practical side here. I can make this disappear. And any questions, make sure you're asking them along the way, please. Okay. I understand there's a number of you that also might be, this is a live version of our software inside here. So I hope you're still able to all see it in here. One of the things that some of you might want to do, if you are having a good idea that you want to turn into a startup, is you want to ask yourself the right questions. So in my presentation, I also said in the beginning, we're going to try to teach you to ask the right questions. This is a book that's quite a well-known book about disciplined entrepreneurship. Inside here, I've taken made the OGSM and shown you basically the same type of format. So although I've given you the theory how to make your own OGSM, you can also use pre-made OGSMs to fill in the questions. So it asks things, who is your customer inside here? What is your total addressable market? What are your next 10 customers? And inside things like the market segmentation, which we already showed you to put in the OGSM. So this is like a pre-OGSM. Who specifically would be using your product? What would be the end user be using your product for? So these are the types of things that you can use in OGSM to help structure your thoughts as you're defining what your startup will be and why it will be successful. And using tooling like this, if you go through it all, how does your customer acquire your product? These are just good questions to be asked of yourself so that you know how to fill it in. And when you've filled in one of these, then you can go into more of your own OGSM or fill in another template version. So to improve win, what I need to significantly improve and how am I going to improve a win? Often, as I said here, you start off with the goal headers and you put in revenue, profit, quality, customer satisfaction, things like that. You talk about what am I going to do with my partners? What am I going to do with my management themselves, the customer, the product? So we have lots of different examples of how to do that if you're interested in some of those. So we have lots of good examples for hospitals, for startups, for anything. The one I wanted to show you today is talk about, because I understand some of you are working in the consulting area, some of you are more in the software development. So we could take a software organization and we could put a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in here and start building it out. So this is, again, a way to use this format to write down what are my strengths and what am I going to do to impact it. And once you've done a SWOT for your organization or the 21 startups, you will hopefully end up going into, if I find the right one in here. I think it's this one. Oh, I didn't have it exactly right. ABC development, that wasn't the SWOT itself. No, that was the SWOT inside there. No, I can just do a new one anyway. So what we would do, this is basically creating a new OGSM. I'll give it a board name. So we can call this the OGSM presentation, which would be your organization. And we're just going to make this the 2025 version. Who is going to be the owner of this? So I will say, I'm the owner. And what period of time will this OGSM be for? So I start off with a blank canvas. This is hard. This is where I advise you to think before you type and really work out what you want to do. So the objective, for instance, of this meeting is that all participants are very pleased with learning about a change canvas called OGSM by Edward showing good examples and making a entertaining, if not a little bit too theoretical, presentation. So when you want to put down your objective, what I do also say is make sure you just put something down and don't worry about being perfect up front. It's not going to be perfect. We don't even expect it to be. We want you to be brainstorming. So you can be putting down in here the what header. You can change it afterwards. We know that most of you care in the end about profit, but you may not know what your profit is today or what you want it to be. Often revenue is inside there. You're going to say inside the how, often you're going to do something like grow customers count, which is a number. We're going to talk something about the from one product per purchase to two. And by saying and start typing some of these up, when you say, if my customer buys, instead of one product, buys two, and I'm going to have more customers coming through, that should naturally create more revenue. And if I've got the right business formula, that'll create more profit. So, and if I do that, I should then hopefully achieve my objective, which in this case is a wrong objective, but I'm just trying to show you the questions you need to be asking to get there. Now, when you start off in your strategies, you say, okay, the staff inside here, we're going to talk about the partners. We might talk about product strategy, and we might talk about the corporate strategy or something like that. Start off brainstorming with your team. What do we need to do if we're going to grow our customer count? What are we going to do? So we probably, there's one thing missing here. Does anyone know what it is? Anyone can quickly put it in the chat? I can't see the chat, sorry, because I'm sharing my screen. The most important one. What is my customer strategy inside there? Yeah, so that will often be the first one. Some people put the staff strategy first, other people put the customer strategy first. But what am I going to do to attract more people to the organization to buy more product? And what I would be recommending to you is, where possible, start with something that already works. So if we look at a one-page marketing plan, this is already a pre-made OGSM inside here that gives you a lot of a starting point. Just like the 21 steps, most organizations are going to need some sort of customer strategy. And if the customer is not aware of your organization, or they don't know that there's not a good sales situation, it won't work. So by starting off with an OGSM that says more paying customers buying more products by creating and executing a great digital marketing plan. So here we see we have the what I want more paying customers buying more products. So here we see more paying customers buying more products, and we have it here. And then by creating and executing a great digital marketing plan. So then we have a great digital marketing plan, and then we have numbers that are going to get there. Now, in the tool inside here, we can say for the 15%, we can say we want to start at something like 100,000, and we're going to grow by 15%. So that's 115,000. We're going to measure once per quarter. So these are just KPIs inside here, which ends up with these being generated for you inside there and gives you a graph like this. So that makes it more believable. Now, what you can see in here is we have to increase our profit. We have two child KPIs. So we've got a revenue, which is the income, of course, and we've got the customer acquisition cost, which is a cost. So the two together will help represent my profitability. I'm just trying to show you some of the basics of, if I put numbers in here, I want to have what is my starting number and what is my target number to get to my objective inside here. So if we have this properly in place, we'll have actions with steps inside here. And inside the steps, you can give a more description about what are we talking about. So this is in the customer journey. There's going to be something about trigger research and touch points for brand awareness. So, and then we have a whole description about what that means. So these are the templates that we expect you can use. The real world example that we had talked about during the presentation is something like the supermarket example. So in here, this one's also cascaded from a version here all the way through to, if we take the level 3 cascading here, we've still got to be the preferred supermarket, and this should be in the USA. And what am I going to do? I'm going to cascade it into California, and from California, go in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and then I've also got Florida and Texas as the states that I'm going to expand in. So all of these numbers, because they're numbers, they can be cascaded down into smaller and smaller numbers. So what you want is that the 27 million profit that I'm trying to get from the parent KPI can be broken down and can put in the 3 different states I've got. So with California, Florida, and Texas are all going to be adding up, and each level does the same thing inside there. That's why the numbers, text, because it allows it to cascade very well. Again, I'm racing through, but I hope it's okay for everyone to follow. So in here, again, you have an action, and in the action, you should be describing what is the result I'm trying to achieve in here. What phase am I in of the project? Is it on track or off track? And again, you want to communicate this regularly with each other, at least once per month, about the status of the actions. It can be as simple as clicking on here and adding a status update, which will be asking for, tell me something and tell me, are you on track, off track? Because the OGSM in our tooling is designed, if it's got a color that's not green, we want to talk about it. So red means this needs attention. And apparently this needs attention because one of these areas, the employees develop themselves by following an online training, just right here, there is a problem at the moment inside that one. So one of the demos here was a fantastic example. Okay, so I've spoken a lot. I've tried to show you things. What we can also do, if you're interested in actually getting to a read-only version and having a look at what something good looks like, you can then apply to Brian or to Thomas or one of the people, even to myself, and we can allow you to log into here and have a look around. And if you really want to try, then we can let you create your own workspace or a OGSM within one of these workspaces to have a feel what OGSM can do for you. But just like driving a car, if you get in a car and you don't know what you're doing, the chances of getting the value out of the car is very small. Ask someone for help. You'll really be rewarded with getting much better value. I've spoken a long time, Brian, sorry.
Yes, good. All right. Well, we have a couple of minutes for questions. Who's got some questions out there? June, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a marketing website for farmers, and the objective of the farmer is to sell more of his products. But as a marketing and advertising website, do I just, as the objective, say helping the farmers to reach more customers?
When you
Did
say you have a website, I'm just trying to work out, can someone stop my sharing? I can't see the button to stop the sharing. Brian or Cameron, can you disable this?
Yeah,
The sharing for the
you're
time?
stopped. Yeah, you're good.
I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. So just a question one more time. So you say you have a marketing website. So you're trying to attract more customers for the farmers to be able to sell more of their produce to, if I understand correctly.
Perfect.
Okay. So what you want to do is make sure you talk in terms of the customer value, and you need to describe to the farmer what are they going to do so that when they buy, when a customer comes the first time in contact with them, what is their differentiator? Why will the customer keep coming back? And that's got to be clear. So your marketing site should be telling the customer what makes your farmer different. Is it because it's fresh produce? Is it because it's picked later in the season and therefore it's higher quality nutrients? Is it because of the price? Is it because of its locality and therefore you've used less CO2 to transport? Something must get them to buy the product. And that strategy should be tested with the customers and then make it easy for them. So as far as, I don't know if you've heard of the Atomic Habits book, but you need to make it very easy for the customer to buy. So if they see something they like on your marketing website, can they purchase in one click a product from the farmer? Is that possible? Is it really easy for them? Does that answer your question, June?
It does. It answers my, well, it was great. But the second part of your thing where you said, can you make it easy for the customer to buy? I can't make it easy for the customer to buy at this time. I can only make it easy for the farmer to reach the customer at this time,
Okay.
because as you develop a website, you develop the features, and one of the features will be making it easy for the customer to buy. Is that
But
okay?
then what you can definitely do very quickly in WordPress and other tools is make it easy for the end user to deliver their email address and what they want. So that's the very least you can do. Just put in a 2-part form, fill in your email address and just make sure it's a valid email address in the box in WordPress. And then what do they want? And then they just click send. So it's just 2 edit boxes and a click to send. And at least the farmer has an email address with what they want. And then it makes it easier for them to get that.
Thank you for the suggestion.
All right. Well, I know we're at time. Any other burning critical question? I don't see any. Okay. Thank you. I want to say very nice to have Edward and Thomas here to help talk about executing your strategy, achieving your goals, using OGSM to get there. And we'll definitely get the information to everybody who registered, slides. And you can definitely, talk to Cameron and I and ask more questions, and we'll go from there. So any last comments, Cameron, from you?
No, just want to say thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Edward, for leading the charge today and educating us all on OGSM, and love the theory plus the practical examples as well. So looking forward to sharing the recording as well as the slides with everyone. If there's follow-up questions, we would love to support you. We do have a full set of workshops coming up, so we'll follow up in the email with some of those. We have an in-person one in the middle of September on leadership, and then Brian will be leading some virtual workshops as well. So keep an eye out for that. If you haven't signed up for the Carlson Center newsletter, Arlene writes and curates that, so we get all the events and activities in the ecosystem and beyond for you. So be sure to subscribe there. And yeah, just thank you for the time and energy, everyone. And Yeah.
Give
I'd
a
love-
golf clap.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
The wave, Edward. Appreciate all your efforts. Very nice.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All
Thanks,
right.
Edward.
See you
Alrighty.
guys. Thank you.
Bye.